We've got a few that are on vacation. I guess they deserved it, so we want to make sure that we're recording for them. Got my screen a little bigger so I can see everybody. I'll tell you what, let me just go ahead and get started because this won't take a whole long time, but it's so good to like get my eyes on you. Like, I feel like I've been emailing you forever. And like, I'm like, I know Carrie and Holly, and I'm just Cassandra. I'm looking at your names. You know, I enjoy getting your emails. I got to tell you, we were mentioning in the earlier scholarship session that when I hit send to tell you that you've got the scholarship, like it is all kinds of panic and stress, you know, because you just want to get it right. You want, you know, I know how excited you're going to be when you see that email. And so it's really such a sweet thing. Kind of warms my heart to see your faces. I love it when you send us emails. You know, I know this is a dumb question. Well, let me put you at ease. So I went through the scholarship application in 1998. That is how old I am. Yeah, and it was just like, you know, it came like in the mail. It was so different. I know the stress that is involved in, you know, writing the scholarship, receiving the scholarship, and wondering what have I got myself into. Have you done that yet? You know, now that the scholarship is yours, and you hopefully, I really hope that you've had the opportunity to spend the last couple of days getting into the components, because, you know, this stuff just did not exist. And I'm just going to keep it real. The reason I'm doing this today is because I remember what it was like. I mean, I'm being really transparent here, but I remember I got the scholarship, and back in those days, the directions came in a box. It was just paper, like there were no CDs, nothing. It was just a bunch of all the component instructions. And I remember vividly sitting in my living room on like one of my big, you know, couch chairs. And I'm not a crier. Some of you know me. I'm one of those like tough as nails kind of people, like nothing gets me down. I literally cried right there on the couch because I did not understand the instructions. And I remember my husband walked in, he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, I'm not even smart enough to know what they're asking me, much less smart enough to do the writing. So I hope that gives you some peace of mind, because look, I'm on the other side of it. And I really want to say that's probably what fueled the fire in me to say, you know what, I don't want anybody else to feel that way. I need you to know that I am joined by, read and see each other. I am joined by, I always call my partner in crime, but that's not an accurate description of what Dr. Rogan is to me. But right. Dr. Rogan, would you say hello to this awesome group?
Well, hello to everyone. And I agree, it is so nice to put names and faces together here. So that's makes it really even more exciting. We're used to just looking at names on spreadsheets, but seeing faces is great. Real people out there.
Yeah, yes. And you need to know, Dr. Rogan and I had some discussions a few years ago when kind of the grants, the scholarship was kind of like, you know, do you want it? We're like, yeah, we want it. And so we quickly took over the scholarships. And for a while, the scholarships were offered in the fall for a short, maybe 4 or 5 years. And I'm sure there's a reason for that, but kind of the problem with that is the teachers applied, whatever, it was August, October, and then they didn't find out that they got the scholarship to like November, mid-November. And so teachers weren't even really starting on the process until January. So, you know, you'd lost a whole semester. So even back when I got the scholarship a million years ago, we did it in the spring, or I got it in the spring. And ideally, I would have had a boot camp to go to and friends to talk to, so that when I started school in August, like I could just hit the ground running. So that is one of the reasons we moved the scholarship to the spring, because we thought, we've got all your names. I have tracked a couple of you. I texted last night, you may be in this room because you've moved jobs and your email doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, I'm going to CSI find them, because I don't want anybody to come back and say, I don't know what to do. So we want to be able to say we have loved on you and we provided support, but we also want you to know our job is to be a blessing to you. So whatever we can do to support you, we certainly will. Just, yes, I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. just congratulations to all of you. I'm going to throw this link in the chat one more time because this is kind of where I'm going to be heading during our really short discussion and then answer any questions that you have. What I'd like to see, because we did this yesterday, and some of you may not have been here for the live welcome. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you don't mind, would you click on that? It'll look like, let me pull it up on my screen. It will look like this. And you may have already done this. So if you've done it, you don't have to do it again, but you certainly can because your dot will go in the same spot. But I'd like you to grab this red dot and I want you to place it where you live or where you teach. You can do one or the other. I suppose I should be more explicit, but I'm going to put it, I live right here. So I'm going to give everybody a moment to do that. Oh, I see it growing. Let me put it over here so you can see it. I happen to know that we have saturated the entire state. I think I just messed up someone's drawing. In order to keep populating, this will be out on Twitter later. We really want to share where everybody's from. So just a couple quick things, and we're just going to go through answering questions. And really, folks, this is about you. We wanted to give you just a safe, casual place. Like, hey, I don't know what to do next. You know, some of you have messaged me and Dr. Ogan and others, like, I don't know what to do next. Well, we're going to support you in that, but we can't tell you what to do. We can certainly just kind of put you in the right direction. But hey, let me share with you some exciting scholarship data. So if you're on this document, I just screenshot. I'm going to be deleting all these later because this, you know, it's not pretty on this Google Doc, but I wanted you to see it. That for this scholarship, which we had 214, don't let this number fool you. Some of you got a little eager and accepted it twice. That's okay. But we had 214 people actually get the scholarship. But I'm really proud to see that we are reaching, getting more teachers of color that are receiving the grant. This is the highest data we've had for teachers of color since I've been working with the scholarship. We're really, really excited. We saw that with the camp this week. So wanted you to see this. These are the 11 in-service centers. How about that? It did not always look like this. And that's all I'm going to say about that. We often found that the areas in our state that had a lot of NBCTs, well, more NBCTs came, right? Because they were building like supports and structures. So I could not be prouder of this color wheel. Like, that is just amazing to see how evenly distributed we are across the state. These are your certificates. These are the certificates that make up all of the National Board Scholarship recipients. It looks like many of you are planning to go all in 22, and we're going to talk about that. I see about 93–94% of you have not started. Like this, you are starting from ground zero. So we will support you through that. Some of you have started tinkering a little bit in component 1. So we'll give you some information about that as well. And then we'll get to the calendar in just a minute. I know I have some friends in the room. Misty Sandlin is with us, who was actually one of my student teachers when I was waiting on my scores for National Board. How cool is that? And I think Stephanie Lett has joined us. So make sure we don't miss your questions. So here's something, if you were not in the opening session yesterday, or you didn't get to watch it yet this morning, did you know that Alabama is number 4 in the country for the number of new NBCTs? Did you know that also has a lot of implications because you're next? So no pressure. We're so excited that during a global pandemic, Alabama came up to number 4 for the number of new NBCTs. We are so proud of that. Just the grit and determination and resilience of Alabama teachers to continue their national board journeys during a pandemic. So I just want to kind of throw that at you, maybe give you a little, I don't know, push to just keep on trucking. I wanted to spend a moment on the win. So I'm going to talk about the calendar. I'm going to scroll down, and probably this evening, the only thing that's going to be on here is just the calendar. It's just I wanted to set some stuff up for you guys. So this is where we are. We are right around here. Some of you got a little eager and you wanted to pay your $75. I don't know why. I did not tell you to do that, but you know, I appreciate the eagerness. So that kind of became like a, oh, that was a mess. When National Board decided to kind of push the components for the last year's group because of the pandemic, things just got all kinds of wonky. But I think we're good now. But if you have not paid your $75, you don't have to do that today or tomorrow or even next month. You do have to do it by the deadline. I'm going to share that with you. Your $75 is just telling National Board, y'all, I'm doing something this year. I'm going to submit something in the spring. So I need you to know components are coming. It is just you going in and registering and saying that you are committing to submitting something in the spring. I'm going to scroll down to kind of July. I hope that you all had an opportunity today or yesterday surely someone has said to you that you need to read your standards. Has someone said that to you once or twice or 3 times? So let me tell you, this is my gig on that. And you know, many of our presenters I was their mentor. So let's see if they listened well. So one of the things I would encourage you to do immediately with your standards, if you have not already done it, are 3 things. Is I want you to go through your standards and I want you to look for all the things you're already doing, because you are very likely the most amazing accomplished teachers already. Otherwise, you would not be pursuing National Board and get the scholarship. So just kind of go through National Board with the pen, the standards. And as you see stuff you're doing, circle it, highlight it, because when you start going through this and you're like, I don't know what I want a video, or I don't know what lessons, you've already annotated them in your standards and National Board says they're awesome. So do that. So this will really help serve as like some like Kickstarters for you when you're going through it. I did the same thing. I usually show my standards are just, oh, they look terrible. But I just went through like, oh, okay, I do role playing. Or yeah, I let my students write in, you know, research rap songs. It just gave me ideas of stuff I knew I was already doing. And many of those things were things I lifted up in my portfolio. The other thing I would ask you to do is if you read something and you don't have a clue what it is, highlight it and Google it. Okay, like if they're saying this is awesome, then that's not something you do or know about, then you need to do some homework in that so that let's just say when you take your component 1 assessment, you would have some information about that. And then the last thing, this is like an English teacher. There's so many buzzwords in each of our standards. Just highlight those in a different color, and you can kind of be lifting those up as you're writing. So that's just kind of a little insight. I was in the basic training session. I thought they gave some great suggestions for going through the standards as well. Are the standards part of what we need to study? Yes, absolutely. So your portfolio instructions. Now I'm going to pinch you virtually. If you send me an email and asking me what size font you have to use or what your margins have to be, or like, and that happens, don't do that. It's in your instructions. So please, I mean, that kind of stuff, like, I'm like, just go look it up. It's in your instructions. The guide to certification is super helpful. Are any of you kind of like, I don't know what my certificate's going to be? Like I told Melissa and Dr. Rogan, I'm going to do X, but I'm thinking I might do Y. Or is anybody like a thumbs up? Anybody kind of like, I'm not sure yet? It's okay if you are. Okay, I see Melissa, I see Jenny, Shanae, Shelby. If you want to reach out to us or stay after the session, just to let us kind of be a thought partner with you, that is totally fine. I had the same issue. I was teaching any of you 8th or 9th grade teachers. If you teach 8th or 9th grade, you're like in that, like, not sure, because you could do early adolescence, which is ages 11 to 15, because my 8th graders were 14 and 15. Same thing with my 9th graders. Or I could do young adulthood, which is what, ages 14 to 18. So I had to make a judgment call, like, which one do I want to do? I'll tell you what I did. And I did it just because I knew this worked for me, but this may not work for you, is I was teaching in a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school. So let's just say the principal moved me to another grade the next year. I'd have been in trouble if I had gone with the upper one, because then I wouldn't have access to that age group of kids. So I chose to do the early adolescence certificate, because I knew no matter what grade I taught at my school, I would be good. So that was my process. But if you want us to have some conversations with you, sometimes generalists are kind of struggling, like, should I do literacy? So put a pin in that. We'll be sure to help you answer those questions. So you did this. So here you are. And this was the first time I think we've done it quite this way, Dr. Rogan, where I kept hounding you, like, please come, because we get so many questions that it's really nice to be able to say, kind of answer them all at one time, because we've got a question, we know others do as well. Does everybody know who your in-service center is? Yes, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. I'm seeing a couple that I can tell you really don't know, but you're shaking your head, trying to make me think you do. So I'm going to throw something in the chat. Please save it. This is a document that I think Dr. Stephanie Uline with Sarah put together. These are your people. So when you start, and they already have your names, because Dr. Rogan, I believe, sent every one of your names to the in-service center director to say, these folks got the scholarship. They're all kinds of awesome. We need to support them and connect with them, so that they already know about you. But if you're not sure who your people are, these are the 11 in-service centers, and you can see they've already started putting links to the candidate support sessions that they're offering. Just so you know, everybody does it a little differently. Thank you, Trinetta. I love to see that. Some, like the way we do it at UAB, is we met in a church every second Tuesday, and we had like a literacy room, we had a math room, we had like a social studies table. So we put everybody together by like certificates, and then we put in NBCT working with them. So of course I had like the ELA people and the social studies people. Some do it remotely, especially since the pandemic, we had to punt and do that as well. So it may look a little different from region to region. I think we get this a lot. I don't know if I got any like Jasper friends in the room. I think we do actually, but so Jasper would reach out to us at UAB and say, you're really closer to me than UNA is. So can I hang with you? Because I actually live in Birmingham, and to go to this in-service center region, like, that's going to take forever. So we have some crossover that I think we're all pretty good with that. So I wanted to be really clear on that, but the in-service centers serve where you teach, not necessarily where you live. Is that an accurate way to say it, Dr. Rogan?
Yes, everybody is eligible to attend support services at any in-service center. So don't feel like you've got to stay in the one that your school system is a part of. Just as she was saying, find the one that's most convenient for you.
Mm-hmm. And so many of our in-service center directors, I mean, all of them, not so many, every single one of them, and many of them are NBCTs. Nicole Hill with UAB, Laura Crow with Auburn, Keisha Talbert Simmons up at A&M. Am I forgetting anybody? But every single one of them are just such great support systems for National Board. So August, we're going to catch our breath. We're going to start school. We know it's going to be, the one thing I can say about you guys as you're starting National Board, you're going to have some content. You're going to have a lot of great stuff to talk about, because when it asks you, how do you know your students and what are you doing? It's going to be triage. Don't you think, when the kids come back to us in a few weeks, we're trying to figure out who's not been in school in 2 years. We're trying to figure out, just how their hearts and their brains are. So you've got some really great opportunities to look at how are you supporting students. I can't say post-pandemic. I keep catching myself saying that since we're still kind of in it, but coming out of it, whatever the language is for that. Start connecting with your in-service centers immediately. I've already gotten 2 messages today and one on the bulletin board that asked me, will you assign my mentor? Or when will you assign my mentor? I think I mentioned that earlier. That comes straight from the in-service centers. So we don't do that. I mean, I wish we could, but that is all housed within the directors. Have you heard of Atlas? Has anyone heard of Atlas? Okay, so here's going to be my Cliff Note version for Atlas. This also comes through your in-service centers, and I'm just going to show you really quickly. I'm just going to log in. This was actually not for NBCT candidates. This is just for teachers. So like my daughter's a kindergarten teacher, and she can go in and see, I want to see this English or this reading standard taught in a kindergarten classroom that is urban, has students with ADHD, and a teacher is using this particular strategy. Like it drills down that much to actually where the teacher is teaching that standard. So like, I'm just gonna go real quick. I'm just gonna click on, I don't know, Common Core State Standards. I'm just gonna pull up an ELA standard. I just want you to see how you don't really need any kind of training for this. You just get in and tinker. So I'm in framework here. I want to go to language arts. They have this for science too. I want to go to anchor standards for reading. I'm just going to keep clicking. I'm just going to grab the first one I see. I can just keep querying if I wanted to, but this is just a rando case that I have pulled up. But I can see between the minutes of 1540 and 1831, this particular standard relationship between point of view of purpose, content, and style is being taught. I can see the teacher's commentary. This is a nationally board certified teacher who scored super high on her video component, or she or he. This is what, this is their commentary. These are the materials they use. So if you're trying to figure out like, what does writing look like? Because I know you're missing the writing session right now because you're hanging with me. This gives you a great opportunity just to see what kind of instructional materials did the teacher submit, what type of writing, and that comes through your in-service centers too. Everybody has access to it. And this is really not for candidates. I use it all the time for like principals. Before we go do instructional rounds, I'll pull up an Atlas case and we're watching an NBCT teach, and then we're using the instructional rounds form to watch her or him. And then we go into the classroom because we are better connected to what it is we're looking for. So in October, now this is just a Melissa and Boyd Rogan wish, but there is no hurry for you to start registering for components, because what often happens is they open up registration and people are like, I'm in, I'm going all 4. And then it gets a little closer to it and like, okay, maybe I'm not being all. There's no rush. Like if you know, like for sure you're submitting component 1 or component 2, then certainly you can go ahead and register. And when you do, you'll have to pay that $75. But you got time. You got time before you have to say, this is what I'm going to do. Notice I keep saying in October, you may register. In December, you may register. Come January, and I checked these before we met, you still have time to register, but you can actually start purchasing. Come February, you can't register or choose your components at all. So right now, unless we have another COVID mess, right now, the deadline to say, these are the components I'm submitting and registering or withdrawing is February 28th. So let me also be really clear, because sometimes this is confusing. If you're submitting and you say, I want to do component 2 and 3, yes, you have until February 28th. Am I saying to wait until February 28th to work on it? Can I see a whole lot of shaking heads? No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Registering for it is just saying, I want somebody to score it. You've been working on it all this time. So when you register, nothing really happens other than National Board is going to be expecting you to submit those components in the spring. So you should start working on them immediately. Normally what we recommend, like if you're doing component 4, many folks start with component 4 because that one you're showing so much over time. I'm not going to talk to you about the component because I know you've heard enough about them today. So I will not belabor that, but I will share with you some resources we have. So you are going to tell National Board, yep, I'm doing this by February 28th. And then it gets kind of crazy after February. It's like our heads are down. We are all working. Components are going to be due soon. We've told National Board we're doing this. The cohorts seem to get bigger and bigger those next few weeks as components are being due. You can start taking the test, the component 1 test. You can start as early as March 1 and take it up through June 15th. There's a window. For me personally, I like to, take the assessment after school is over. My brain's relax a little bit, but some folks like, I just don't want to deal with it. I want summer to be here and I don't even want to think about National Board. So, you do you, but for me, my process was, I wanted to be all in with the components, submit it. I wanted to breathe. I wanted to maybe take a little Florida vacation. I don't know, detox from just a crazy year at school, and then take the assessment, but you can take it as early as March 1. You can see here that this is when we start making those final preparations. National Board has not set the deadline. It's usually like May 6th, or some of my NBCTs in the room, feel free to correct me, but it's usually like somewhere like in the first week of May is when National Board says you must submit. But when I checked their website, I did not see the date posted yet. And then you wait. So you submit in May. Maybe you take the test, maybe you don't. You don't have to. And one of the painful parts of National Board, other than just doing it, is you have to wait until December to get your scores. That is not a new thing. It's been that way for 22 years. It was the same way for me. So you submit all your stuff, you just exhale, and then you wait to find out your scores. You can start thinking about the components you want to finish if you're working on other components. If you'll notice, I screenshotted this just like a few days ago. So this came straight from National Board's Guide to Certification with their deadlines. I wanted you to have access to those. And then, thank you. I had told you that, I know if you've been in the boot camp the last 2 days, I imagine your brain's hurting a little bit. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. And once you start working through your components, you're going to forget about 50–60% of what you learned today and yesterday. It's just how our brains work. Those kind of synapses, I hope, will come back together when you start working. But I'm going to go ahead and share with you. And if you just go to Google, I'll put the link in the chat. It's pretty easy to find. This is just my nerdy pay it forward. I do not, I work with National Board, but really I just tell Dr. Rogan all the time, like, how can I help? This is not my job. I'm actually over the Office of School Improvement, but if my job is about improving schools, what better way can I do it than support accomplished teaching? Because that's how good schools grow, right? That's how kids grow, is by those people standing in front of them. So if you go to this website, I wanted you to see that I have a site just for components. Okay. And I won't spend a lot of time there because you can play on it later, depending on what components you're planning. But we have videos. I think our internet's kind of wonky, so forget the video not available. But we've got videos. And then, of course, we have the boot camp. So every component session that you've attended today, or let's say you could not come because you had conflicts with school, it will look just like this. Here's last year's. I'll be posting this probably tonight, tomorrow, but this is, and you can look at these too. These are the 2020 links. where we have all the PowerPoints and the Zoom recordings, and some of them we put on YouTube. So you have complete access to go back when you're working in component 3 to be like, okay, I need to go back and watch that video, or I need to go back and see that PowerPoint. This is all public. You don't need to log in. You can access this anytime you want. I'll be posting the link for what we're doing right now right around here. It'll be at the very top and say, click here for all presentations and PowerPoints and videos. I've made myself a note to tell you to pace yourself. If you were in some of the earlier sessions, and I think I mentioned that already in this group, the national board process has changed so that teachers don't have to do everything in 1 year. I want you to hear me say it's totally doable to do in a year. Like when someone's like, I just can't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, you can. But do you have the capacity? Like, are you a cheerleading coach? Are you driving an hour back forth to work? Do you have a sick parent? Do you have small children? Like, you know your life. National board saying, yes, you could do it all in 1 year, but you don't have to. Just like you don't have to do your graduate courses all in 1 year. But it is, as someone that did it all in 1 year, and I didn't know anything about anything, and there were, what I say, 6 entries and 4 90-minute tests and absolutely 0 support. And I'm not that smart, you know, I'm just a hard worker. If I can do it, I promise you, you can, but it's not one of those things. I think you've probably heard other folks say that today. You can't procrastinate, and you can't have, it's not something like someone can like spoon feed you. I set myself a schedule. This is when I'm going to do this stuff. Any of you had young children or children involved in sports? I'm seeing a lot of yeses. So I'm often asked, how did you balance that? Once again, this is different for every person. I was a young mama, active in my church, teaching 30 minutes away. So my process was I collected stuff throughout the week. I taught my kids hard. That's my priority, is I want to be an excellent teacher. I also want to be an excellent mama. And so my national board work happened on the weekends. I would say probably 80 to 85% of my writing happened when I put the kids to bed on Friday and Saturday night. And then I'm going to tell you what time I went to bed, you know, for months on end. But that was how I departmentalized it. Some people don't have little kids underfoot, you know, they can work on it on Tuesday night and Wednesday night. I just couldn't do that. When I went through renewal, I found like, I kind of liked the way I did it the first time, so I kind of stuck with that. Some people create like their dining room table is their national board headquarters, and they've just got like files and, you know, like my spices are alphabetized, like I'm that kind of person. So that was not an option for me. Mine was, everything was really organized and, you know, in one spot. But you know, you find your process, but do pace yourself. Don't try to do too much at one time. Some folks like to do one component at a time, just to be able to put one to bed and start another. I kind of like that myself, but there is no right or wrong way. Dr. Rogan, I'm taking a breath before I get to the coupon system.
Well, I wanted to say something about that and kind of lead into that. First of all, you as the scholarship recipients, work with National Board Office also. They have a very good customer service department. This is, you know, they got a 1-800 number, 1-800-22-TEACH. And they're glad to work with you. You are a customer. You're spending $1,900 with them. Although you're not paying it yourself, you have what's called a third-party payer. So if they ever ask you about that, that's what you are, as a third-party payer. But you should check with them. First of all, go to their websites. They have a tremendous amount of information on their website. So as Melissa was saying earlier, don't be asking a lot of questions that they've already given you the answers to. You know, be proactive. Go there and find out the answers for yourself, because they're available. But when you do have problems, go to them. But if you go to them and you don't get satisfaction, because they will try to work with you. They say they're very nice people, but they have rules and they're dealing with people all over the country. Get back to me and say, I've contacted customer service and they say, whatever they say, and there's an issue, let me know. I'll work with the State Department and we'll get it straightened out. Because, you do not receive any money directly. A lot of people think they're going to get a check for $1,900. Obviously, they're not going to get that. What we do is after we have compiled the list, and we've got the 214 winners this year, we turn that list in with all the information that you've given us with your account numbers, those account numbers you provided us. And so you give us those account numbers, we turn it into the State Department. They will send one check to National Board that will cover all 214 people. And when National Board gets this, they know what to do with the money because they've got your account number. You have an individual account. And that's when you're going to get into the coupon system that Dr. Shields will follow up with a little bit here. But you've got 4 coupons just to spend. And everybody likes to spend coupons. But, don't be bashful about asking for help, but do it in an organized, intelligent way. Read the website, check with customer service, and we're sort of your backup system. So if you can't get satisfaction, let us know and we'll intervene on your behalf and see if we can't get it straightened out. Okay.
There was a lot of stress in the spring. I mean, you got to throw in the pandemic, and then they postponed the submission. And right as they were postponing that, they're like, oh, and we're going to use coupons. And we're like, wait, coupons? Did you say? So we were suddenly in the coupon business. And basically it's just a voucher to say, Megan says, I'm going to do these 2 components. And the National Board's like, here are your vouchers, and you use them. So you don't touch the money. You just kind of push it down and say, this is what I want. But we got you. There's not a single person that did not get to submit because of, any kind of coupon issues. That's our job, is to be an advocate for you, but it does help us a little bit if you follow the directions, so we don't have to go back and like undo stuff. But I don't expect it to be as it was hard to navigate just because it was different this first time around. Speaking of FAQs, so let me go over a few things that I knew would be really relevant to you. And thank you, Stephanie, so much for putting all that in the chat. Super helpful. I'm going to just scroll to the bottom, and I promise this will look prettier when you see it again, but I was just getting some information in for you. Dr. Rogan just mentioned you will not get a check. That does not come, that goes straight into your National Board account. We've already sent the list of each of you to the State Department, and so the National Board already knows about you. And we know, generally speaking, what you expect to submit this spring, but we also know life happens and you can change your mind. So don't feel like you're like stuck into it, but it does help us to let, Carol, like, hey, Carol, hey, Melissa, this has happened. I'm not going to get component 3 in. Then we just go in and make that change. But if we don't know it, we can't, we can't prepare to tell National Board one way or the other. You do have to submit 1 component every year for the next 3 years. So you can't skip a year, even if the pandemic continues. The National Board says, you can, what was the word they used, Dr. Rogan? You can defer.
Yeah.
You can't with the scholarship. So that means either take component 1, but you have to submit at least 1 component every year for 3 years. There are 4 components, so one of those years you're going to have to do 2. Or you can say, you know what, I've had 2 kids in 2 years, I didn't sleep then, I'm not going to sleep next year, I'm just going to get this stuff done. You do what works for you. If you do move to another state before the 3 years are up, you would be required to return the money. I already said that. We gave you some examples of how you could submit your components over 3 years. But that's just an example. You do not have to do it that way. I think we've already mentioned the only money you pay is $75. Now, let me just say something about that. I don't think I said that before. You pay the $75 every year that you are going through National Board. Okay? So if you do one component next year, you gotta pay $75. If you do two components the next year, you gotta pay $75. If you do all components in 1 year, you only pay $75 one time. You understand? So I just need you to know that $75 is a yearly thing that you would be responsible for. That the scholarship does not cover that. If I don't receive certification after submitting all components, do I have to return the money? Well, we're not going to think like that because you are all going to become NBCTs. But let's just say you submit and you're not happy with one of your scores and you want to bank maybe 3 scores and then take maybe component 2 or 3 or whatever over. You do not refund us any money. So your scholarship is not dependent on you getting certified the first go around. But you do not get funding if you do a retake. So if you choose to, they're $475 each for each of the components. So it's $1,900 total. And so if you don't like the score you get on component 2 and you want to do it again next year, then you would pay the $475 and then you would take that, the retest, the retake, I think is what they call it. I feel like we have hit this one hard about who to contact. And make sure I put the link that I shared with you earlier in here about contacting your regional in-service centers for support. The Alabama Network, I know you have because so many of you I've let you in. Those of you Facebookers, have you gone to your group? Have you found a Facebook group for like Facebook for Literacy NBCTs, Facebook for Generalists? There's a place for all of you. Now, I know we have some like music and art. We got some just amazing certificates in this group. And so I'm so excited to see those Facebook groups growing because we had really small numbers like for tech, music and art. There's something else I was going to tell you. Oh, I know. So if you Google NBCT directory, have you seen this yet? I don't know what sessions you're in. If you just Google NBCT directory, and I'm going to put this in the chat so you don't have to Google it. This is a place that you can go ahead and go into Alabama, you know, and let's just say that I am music early adolescence. I can click on search and it's going to show me all of the art teachers who are NBCTs in our state. That is such a helpful tool. I use this all the time when someone calls and says, hey, Melissa, I'm doing this in career tech, or I'm doing one with students English as second language. One of the first things I do is I go to this directory and I find friends for them in a neighboring district. Because if you contact an NBCT and say, hey, I'm a candidate, I can't think of a single NBCT that's going to be like, well, sister, I can't help you, or brother, you're on your own. You get this like want to, that's why you see all these people who volunteered all this time these last couple of days, they're going to want to help you. So use this as a resource if you're trying to connect with others, particularly if you have a certificate that maybe there's not a whole lot of folks that have that certificate. Outside of that, I think I'm not going to talk about the 5 core propositions anymore. I feel like you have certainly heard enough of that. But I'm going to stop talking and stop sharing and really just, Dr. Rogan, are we good just to open it up to any questions?
Sure. Sounds good.
You can unmute or you can chat, either one.
I had placed a question in the chat about, I've already signed up for component 1. I'm taking it next week. For the next few years, can I do the components like component 2, 3, and 4? If I wanted to do it so slow as 1 a year, could I do that?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Since you've already completed one, our language says that you have to complete one over 3 years. And just remember, I just thought about this. National Board requires that you submit all of your components within 3 years. So actually, let me retract that. So yeah, you would still need to get them all in.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But yeah, good question. Can we share the list of schools that will get? Yes. Okay, let me show you where that is. Let me share my screen. And that's a good question. Uh-oh, I've lost the rights to share my screen. Not sure how I did that. So So I think
Wow.
I'm the host. Okay, well, let me.
Let me stay here.
Let me try that again. I'm going to put this link in the chat so that you have
Do it now.
access. Thank you. Oh, I have the power again. Thank you, Dr. Roper.
Now you can do it.
Always coming to the rescue.
I bestowed power on you.
Okay, so I'm on my website and I want you to go to candidate resource site and just scroll down. I promise I'll put this in the link in the chat in a moment. See where it says additional stipends for high poverty schools. I've gone ahead and left every year's list because sometimes it changes just a little. Like we had some people get mad, oh, my school was on this list last year. Well, if your school's just barely on that 75 percentile, it could come off. So this is the list of the 2020. This will be updated again. Every year the list, it changes slightly. Oh, I just thought about something. We got a new website. Let me see if it actually takes us there. Yeah,
Wow.
we got a new website last week. I just thought about that.
Wow. Yes. I haven't
So
seen it.
check, yeah, check this site. Let me put it in the chat. I'm going to let someone in. Check this website. Give me, a couple hours because all of our links just went kind of wonky for the State Department, but this is where it will be. And this is where I post it every year. So just kind of bookmark this site so that you can see those schools. The only thing I can't show you, the only thing I would say about this list, and let me quit sharing again, is there are 3 lists. A lot of people go to the memo and like, oh, I'm not on it. There are 3 different lists. There is a list for those that have a graduation rate that's low. There are those that have been on a failing school list 3 years or more. And then there are those that meet that 75% or more threshold for free and reduced lunch. That's a huge list. So just know when you look through that document that you're going to be looking for a series of lists. If your school is on one of those lists and you are a math, science, career tech, special ed, or ESL teacher, then you are eligible for the additional 5.
So Melissa, one of the questions in the chat from Linda was, I just searched the directory for several different years. It says there are none in my district. I'm a literacy candidate. And I feel like that's where kind of the in-service centers come in. One of the things that I've said in the sessions that I've done today was, you may not have anyone in your school who's pursuing with you, but if you attend those cohort meetings that are offered through your in-service center, then even though you don't have someone in your school within the same certificate area, you at least will meet someone in those cohorts. And I know the way that we do things, and I know, Melissa, when you did some things with UAB, we did things where we would sit in tables with content specific people. And so that's, to me, a good way of networking. I think when you're going through this process, networking becomes extremely important. So you can, if sometimes the terminology or the way a question's worded, you may not know exactly how to interpret that. And so if you have someone within the same certificate area to bounce ideas off of, that just gives you more opportunities. And so I think that's kind of where the in-service centers come in and joining those cohorts.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. But I mean, you're seeing the repercussions of what we've done over these last 2 days. It started as just a small group of NBCTs, like, let's just come together. And then we just got bigger and everybody's like, I want in. And now it's become this, we're already talking that we're going to have to make this more than 2 days because so many folks are upset that they can't attend more sessions. I got a great question, and this was in a private message, but I think everybody would want to know, can we confirm stipulations after certification? Is the payment a separate check? And does that income count towards retirement? So I guess I'll do those in backwards order. Yes, it counts toward retirement. So check that. Yes, it normally comes as a separate check, but districts have the autonomy to some do it throughout the year. So that is a local decision. But normally, the way I loved it when I don't get the stipend anymore, and I miss that desperately. But we used to get the stipend around, and we still do, around October, November, sometimes early December. Like it's the most perfect timing as you're getting ready for Christmas. And so it's in my 22 years of being at NBCT, It's always come right there a little bit before Christmas, sometimes early in October, most of the time, like, early December. And then there was one other part to that. Can we confirm stipulations after certification? I'm not sure about that question, but I can say that NBCTs have been getting the $5,000 every year since it started, with the exception of 1 year. It was prorated because of we were going through proration, and I think we got like $2,300, and then the next year they came back and gave us it back. So that was just an anomaly. The scholarship requires full employment in the field. No, that's a great question, Amanda. So I did mine in literacy, or excuse me, English language arts, and I could have become a librarian. I could have become a counselor. I would still get my $5,000. I did go into administration, and I continued to get the $5,000. Now, if you go work at a university or you go to the State Department, then once you leave a K-12 setting, you're not eligible for the $5,000 anymore. I'm seeing a lot of literacy candidates. The Teams Act, I know some of you did not know that was coming before you got the scholarship, but wow, aren't you glad that you are jumping in because you're getting a leg up if that's something you're pursuing? Do we top out at 10,000 per year? Yes, if you are eligible. Well, not everybody gets the 10,000. Everybody gets 5,000. That's the base stipend. That additional 5, remember, is for those schools on the list and those what is considered challenging or hard to staff. I forget what they call it, certificate areas. Can't decide if I want to do math or physics. Well, there isn't a physics, there is a science. So you have to choose between math or science. Will the recording from team session? I'm working on that. We had, I started it late, and I thought that might have been the issue. So I'm struggling a little bit with that recording. So we may have to do that one again if I can't get it, but I hope so. That was awesome. I hope that many of you were able to join it.
Linda's question is the 5,000 each year or just one time? I don't know if you want to hit that.
It is every year right before Christmas. And I want to brag a little bit. So when I first got it, we got 10,000. We got 5,000 to spend in our classroom any way we wanted. And we got 5,000 each year. And I really wish they still did that. It was awesome. I bought all this technology. It was just great.
So the first year, it's kind of cool though, because you find out in December that you certified, but technically you had gone through the process that year. That's your year of certification. So if you certify in December, then usually around February, you will get your first check. So you'll get a check in February, and then you'll get another one in November, December. The issue that some people have had with that is, we advocate every year at what we call Hill Day. We didn't get to do it this year because of COVID. And we basically go and advocate for money for national board teachers. And we talk about how much, we tell them how much we appreciate. We send cards, we talk to them and do all these things to our leadership, and just tell them how much we appreciate getting the stipend, because all states do not give this stipend that we get. And so, the 10,000 that some people get, it is a year-to-year thing, like Dr. Shields said, and it can change from, you may get it 1 year because your school qualifies, and the next year it may not. And so the thing about that is, because it is a year-to-year thing, when you get your initial check in February, if you are one of those schools that gets the 10,000, that first year, you're not going to get the 10,000, because that really wasn't budgeted in for you because you're newly certified. It would be in November when you actually get the 10,000. You will get the 5 in that initial check that you get in February. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it gets a little convoluted. We have to have that discussion a lot, but Stephanie makes a great point. You actually get $10,000 the first calendar year, not school year, but you find out in December, and then you get paid in whatever that is, March. And then that following October or November, you get another $5,000. But if you are part of the extra 5, that doesn't count until the next year, until you are a sitting NBCT in that school. I'm getting some questions about, like, I don't know which one is better for me. Should I do literacy? Should I do generalist? Should I do early adolescence? Should I do young adulthood? Here's the easiest way to figure that out, because you know your story, is to go, especially the general and literacy, or those that teach maybe math, science, they teach multiple content areas and they're struggling, like which one do I want to do? Just go look at the instructions for comps 2, 3, and maybe 4. And that will help you say, okay, no, I don't have access to that, or that doesn't kind of meet the structure of my classroom, or I wouldn't have access to those kids. It always helps me when folks are trying to decide, and they'll be like, oh, you can borrow. So if you are not in the classroom, I hope that you were able to attend the session yesterday, going through National Board without a rostered classroom. That's counselors, instructional coaches, multi-ESL teachers. If you're an instructional coach, it's a simple matter, it is a matter, I wouldn't say simple, of borrowing students and completing the portfolios with a specific class. Yes, hey Jennifer. Yes, Jennifer, definitely. I think it would be easier to borrow a classroom. I think in that situation, I would choose maybe one teacher and say, hey, can I have your kids every Friday or something to that. So you've got, you're building a relationship with the same group of kids. Christy Watkins, who normally works with us on the boot camp, but she had a vacation. So she couldn't help this time, but she went through National Board 2 years ago as a curriculum director for her district. So she was not even in a school, did not have regular access to students. And that's what she did, is she worked with a early grade teacher to say, on Tuesdays or whatever, I want to work with those groups of students. And she was able to do, I should say this, she did all 4 components in 1 year, not even teaching in a school, and certified. Do we notify someone in the scholarship program if we change that component that we are submitting? No, you do not have to do that. So if you told us I'm doing comp 2 and 3 this year, and you've had some revelations over the last couple of days that, oh, I want to go all in, or I want to do different ones, you need to let us know, because we'll just make a change on the Google Doc. But National Board doesn't need to, because you're going to register for those in your account. So when you go into registration, you're going to say, I want 2, 3, and 4, and then they'll reconcile it with what we've sent. Well, I always earn
There's
$5,000.
There's one of them I think we kind of missed. She's asking, they're asking, being scholarship winners, they saw where they can't start until January 2022. Is that correct? Or can we go ahead and pay the $75 and register for a component and start working once school starts in August?
Hear me, start immediately. Like now, that's why we did this. I don't know, I saw that too, maybe on social media, and I think several of us try to get in and be like, no, you can start as soon as you got the scholarship. I mean, that's why we were saying, get on in, start reading your standards. When school starts in a couple weeks, green light, go. You do not have to wait on anything, on anyone. What your big decision is now, and it's a big one, is you need to look through those instructions, or and what you've heard these last couple of days, and you've got to make a decision. This is where my headspace is for what I'm going to submit this year. So if you need to create some sort of calendar for yourself, or just mentally prepare for it, you don't want to wait till December and be like, I don't know which ones I'm going to do. So be deciding which components that you feel really good about submitting this spring, and working toward those. Yes, I think Missy, will you throw that attendance form back in the chat? Health education. Thank you. Ms. Thomas mentioned AEA is, you saw Dr. Fawcett yesterday. AEA is a great friend to National Board. I actually found out about National Board through AEA in 1998, because I was what did we call them? a UNISERV. I was the person at my school to go to the AAA meetings and, report back, whatever that's called. I did that for 10 years. But it was at one of those meetings, someone said, there's this new thing, and you go through it, you're a master teacher. I actually called National Board the next day. There was not, we did not get paid a penny. There was no money to be an NBCT. You could apply for a scholarship. And I don't know what that says about me. And I'm like, I want to be a master teacher. But it was when I was going through National Board is when they added the stipend.
So Melissa Bowman had a question. She's getting certified in exceptional needs. Will she always earn the $5,000 per year that they're offering this year?
You're talking about for the additional stipend? Is that the way you read it?
I'm not sure.
You will receive the additional $5,000 for the life of your certificate. That means you've got to renew or go through maintenance certification, which is very doable. I've done that twice, or it's called renewal before. So as long as you are an NBCT, you will continue to get $5,000. The only if to that is as long as, maybe I should say, the legislature continues to support National Board, and up to this point it has. It is not a given. Every single year we go. Stephanie talked about, we have like an NBCT day where we go and we talk about the impact of student learning with NBCTs, and they have been, that's how this extra $5,000 came about. They're like, okay, well, if it's that good, we want to incentivize teachers. The additional $5,000 can change if your school rolls off that list or you move to another school. I'm also, Stephanie, you be checking the chat for me. I'm going to be throwing in, if you have, and even for today, I would love for you to take a moment, it won't take you more than 2 minutes. It's really important to us that we get feedback. Dr. Rogan, Stephanie, Misty, been part of this boot camp experience since like the inception. So it's been really fun to watch it grow. But the sessions that you've seen over the last 2 days came from, hey, can we have this next year? Even the diversity and social justice session we just had, that came about last year through a request. Julie Ramsey was like, I'm all in, I want to do that. So it really helps us know how to tweak things if we choose to go virtual again next year. Be checking the website. Hey, Matt. Be checking the website, the bootcamp website. I'm gonna be posting those links. Dr. Rogan, Stephanie, Misty, what am I missing? I think, did Dr. Bynum join? I think we had a couple.
I'm here.
Here she is. I can see in the sea of faces. Dr. Bynum, can you think of anything I'm missing from Troy?
I don't think so. I think we're good and looking forward to getting back in the groove.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I'm going to leave it for a couple more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and quit